No, he's back there behind the computer now, so.
Okay. It is 5:15, March 3rd,
Yep, March 3rd.
and you are at the Parks and Recreation Committee of the City of Wausau. Item agenda number 1, approval of minutes of the February 3rd, 2024 meeting, 2025 meeting.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Alder Watson,
I'll second.
second by Alder Lukens. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on authorizing staff to negotiate agreement on operations for River Life concession stand. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right, thank you. So in your packet, in the agenda overview, I put that we did receive 2 proposals. You know, we had the proposal out, and then we have received 1 and gotten 2 more inquiries. So we reissued the proposal, and I did contact the original proposer. They did submit a new proposal, and well as we got 1 more proposal, the 3rd one did not contact me back and did not submit one. So, but we have 2 in front of you, and so I did a summary of those proposals. And there are a couple things within each proposal where the proposer said, you know, that they're proposing this amount, but it's up to negotiation type of thing. So I think it's more of, there's some questions that each proposer has about the space and the operations and compared to what we had with bricks. But in general, they had some very interesting and really good options for the concession stand. Proposal 1, the days, I should have put that separately. I put the hours and the dates and then the hours below, but you can read it, right? So May 1st to October 15th, they were proposing kind of in the morning at coffee, tea, it's a type of sale, and then from 11 to 7:30, ice cream, snacks, beverages. They had a lease amount with 3% of sales. And then the bathrooms that they put in there that they'll maintain, I'll go back a second after I go through this. They're self-financed, 1 to 2 student age per shift. The owner will open and close what they're proposing, and would like to possibly do some other offerings with us in the park. Just to, before I go to the next one, to go back with what we had at Bricks, they had a $1,000 lease per the 12 months. We did not do percent of sales with them either, and then we ended up changing over the years that our department maintained the bathrooms, but they are on a timer, so we just make sure that they're open and clean. That's something I think that with either proposal, we're willing to work with and talk to them about, because we do have staff that can do it and stuff like that. But Proposal 2, May 29th through September 1st, so same as what Brooks had, that Memorial Day through Labor Day, 11 to 8 p.m. with ice cream, shakes, pizza. Closed on Mondays, kind of as a day to regroup, clean. So that's a part of that proposal. They have the same lease amount as Bricks had. City will maintain the restrooms here, financing self and some loan financing here. And then also student aged during the shifts, total of 10 to kind of work throughout the shift. And then 1 to 2 full-time per year. They have in their proposal potential for different phases. So phase 1 would be this operations of the concession stand with the food and the ice cream. And then a phase 2 could possibly be equipment rental, kayak, canoes, and guided tours on the river. That's something that had been talked about down at the riverfront. That's a possibility. There's some storage issues we might have there. That would be something we further talk about. Maybe not issues, but just a challenge. We don't really have a space for placing of equipment at the moment, but not to say we couldn't add it. And then phase 3, possibly down the line, would be maybe Segway rentals and tours, so something different than the bikes that we have down there and stuff like that. So what I'm asking, so I didn't put the proposers' names in here. I can send you these, but I wanted to give you the gist because with it being there were some things in both proposals that, like I said, they are willing to talk to the city about and come to agreement, and maybe some thoughts on those phasing if it was the proposal 2. So I wanted direction from the committee as to if there was a proposal that you liked over the other, and getting authority to start with more discussions with them. I haven't really reached out to either one other than to say I got the proposal. Sarah has a question.
Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, obviously, I mean, there's things in both proposals that I like, or, you know, that I like better here than that and better over here than that. So, I mean, it's, so a couple questions, I guess. First of all, proposal number one, you know, there's a big difference in, you know, rental money, if you will, lease money. What would their sales have to be where, you know, 3% of that would amount to basically to match proposal two's? You know, I don't know what that number is. I'd have to whip out a calculator. I still
Yeah.
wouldn't know what to do. But, I mean, it's 6 months versus 12 months, so we would have the $350 a month for 6 months. And then that 3% would have to be big enough, I guess, to look good to us compared to the $12,000 a year on the other side. I've always felt a little weird about the 12-month, you know, lease when it's, you know, months of that time it's just sitting there empty. So it just seems like not the best deal if I were, you know, wanted to be a vendor there.
And I think that's one of the areas, and we have the proposal for proposal number 2 here. We were going to
Okay.
ask some questions that I did offer to both of them to come. But that was one of the areas within their proposal where they were presenting the same as our bricks lease, because they did ask for that, and that is public record. But that it also, you know, could be up for discussion as well.
And I certainly like the longer season of 5/1 to 10/15, because, you know, I mean, there's going to be there could be some really nice weather at that time. And the other proposal is significantly shorter season, pretty much summer vacation, you know, kind of thing. In proposal 1, could you give me a feeling of what they meant by they would like to collaborate with the department to provide offerings at the park?
Yeah, they put in, and both proposals kind of speak to some events that could happen. So, you know, we have that big green space to the south of the concession stand. So proposal 1, they put in that they would like to collaborate us to, if we were to organize like a 5K, to make sure that it comes past that facility so they could, or maybe that it starts and ends there, that they could then get revenue off of that crowd, or that we have a movie in the park there, which is something that I could talk to both proposals about, you know, of some of our events that we have elsewhere, maybe moving them to this location while the concession stand's open, so that it benefits from those as well. And we did not put in, you know, to be fair to both proposals, we didn't put in, you know, an expected lease amount that we were asking for, or any requirements on dates. So it was kind of, this is our proposal, let's see who might be interested and throw it out there. But if there is something I think that you feel strongly about that would be part of the discussion with one or both, I mean, I could go back and get more information from both proposals as well. The proposal 1 is from 2 gentlemen that would be doing it independently. And then proposal 2 is from a known business in town that already runs a similar type of activity. So there's a little bit of
Right.
difference in the proposals.
And proposal 1 seems a little problematic in terms of staffing, in that it says student age, but, you know, part of their season is during school season, so
Yeah, if they're
who
in
would be
May,
working there, you know, if that were the case? So, I mean, they would have to kind of give us a good idea of what their staffing plan really looks like, because it just doesn't seem workable, probably. I don't know, anybody else have questions?
We'll start with Alder Watson.
Thanks. So is there any wiggle room on like the hours that they have in their proposal? Like, I would think that would come up maybe with negotiations. Or
Yeah.
are they pretty firm on like, we want to start May 1, we don't want to start until June 1 kind of thing?
So I don't know if either one of them are firm, but that would be something that's the information I wanted to gather from you. If you prefer certain things to talk about, I would take it back to one or both proposals and, you know, get their feedback on where they are with all of these options. I mean, like I said, we didn't put in our in our RFP are required dates to be open, times to be open, or lease amount. So I think to be fair to both, or if there's one that seems better, then I can work on that one too. And if we can't come to an agreement, we can't. But I think from what I gather from both proposals, there are talking points to consider. And it would be something worth a conversation with both, that I do think they want to make it what's most effective for their business.
Right.
So I think it'd be something that we could talk about.
So I think my the thing I like about proposal one is the dates. It looks like a more expansive timeline. My question to you is, would they be open 7 days a week? You didn't notate like closed anything, so I'm assuming that's a 7-day a week thing.
Yeah, they didn't specifically say that they would be closed a day, so
Okay.
I'm assuming 7 days.
Because I don't mind the Monday. I mean, everybody's closed Mondays, though. Like, coming from a person that likes to go out with lunch with her bestie on Monday, like, there's hardly any places, just saying it. I mean, I sort of like that idea, but it seems like the proposal, too, I like the expansion aspect of it. So, like that, it's sort of a long haul kind of approach, and it also creates, like, full-time positions here in town, which I thought sort of seemed positive. Not that our kiddos don't need, work during the summer, but, so those are like my pros on both of them. That's what I was looking at, so thank you.
Yeah.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I also like the room for expansion with proposal number 2. I think that our goal from the time we considered the riverfront concepts was that space be an active space. Kayak rentals were one of the first things we talked about there. But I also like the expansive timeline of proposal 1. I think with proposal 2, I'd even be flexible on the lease term and even the amount if there was some wiggle room on the length of the season. We are activating that riverfront year-round. I mean, you guys are plowing it, people are down there all the time. The fall is one of the best times to go for a walk down there. It's beautiful down there. So, I mean, we want that space active into October if we can get it. I would love to see somebody propose something from, either May 1st or Memorial Day through Halloween. Because it's not cold yet, it's not snowing yet, but people are out. But I love the offerings. I also think that the park department continuing to maintain those restrooms is better than leaving that to the vendor, because I think the vendor may not realize what they're biting off with that work.
Yeah.
The last vendor tried it, and it was not good. So, I mean, there's a reason that you guys ended up taking that back. So I think that the layout of what I see in proposal 2 is better. Even if we could negotiate on the rent and the number of months of the lease, I think 12 months also is a bit much for such a short season, but I would just like to see a longer open season so that there's more offerings down there.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with May and September, once the kids are back in school, is just that. So then you're gearing more towards your parents with really young kids who aren't in school yet, so that could be something to discuss.
I guess my concern, to have it open till October 31st, I'm all for it, but then again, when you've got kids in school and stuff and people working, I would be more, like maybe after, say, Labor Day, a week or two after Labor Day, just opening it on weekends only.
Maybe. I mean, whatever could be worked out. I just know that so often when we depend on students to do the work, we have that same struggle with our pools.
Yep.
Pools are closed early in August and it's still 80-plus degrees and people complain about that. So I get the labor shortage part, but, if weekends are a solution or shorter hours or alternating days or whatever would need to be worked out, I just think the more use that we can get of that building and the more hours and days that we have offerings there for people who are down there, especially with the park right next door, that's a high utilization park. So if we could get more days out of a vendor, I think we would all benefit from that.
And adding to that too, the 529, even if you could open on weekends starting May 1st.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean, pick the busiest times,
yeah.
basically. That's what I was thinking too.
Alder Neal, I believe, is up next.
Thank you.
I didn't see you.
I can,
Well, I'm not in a hurry if you'd like to go. Go ahead.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
have much. I was just going to say that I agree with a lot of what has been said. When I looked this over, I liked the additional offerings of Proposal 2, but I liked the longer time and the hours of Proposal 1. And I wouldn't want to maintain the bathrooms if it were me, so I think that I would agree with that. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Alder Neal.
Oh, okay, thank you. I had a brief conversation with Jamie before the meeting started, and it's my understanding, that we're sort of being looked to tonight to pick one, to recommend one, and then have staff start, negotiating on that one. I don't think we should do that. As we can hear right now, there's things we like about both. They both probably need to be looked at and brought back with more flesh on the bone. And not only that, but, this is going to have to go to finance to talk about money and things, and eventually to council. So, how we, run that gamut, and get down to the one recommended one, I don't think we're there yet. So that's what I'm thinking.
Alder Watson.
I just had a question about the concession building itself. Like, can it be open 24/7, 365? Can it be open in the winter? Does it have like heat and stuff, or no?
Yeah, the bathrooms are heated. The problem is the playground is not technically open in the winter because once that surfacing freezes, they really shouldn't be played on.
And then
But we
they-
don't necessarily close them.
Okay, because I guess because you could still go to the concession stand if you're walking on the trails with which you guys plow during the winter, right?
Yes.
I mean, ice cream's really not ideal, I guess, when it's really snowy, but pizza might be. But so, because I guess my question is there maybe eventually, we could have this open all year round, if we got a vendor that would scaffold into that, or no?
If we had a vendor that was willing to do that,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it might be some studying of the traffic in the winter because when you're out walking the trail, how often are you walking it for exercise or are you walking it to
For recreation and just
stop
chill.
and, yeah.
Well, and if I could add too, you've got WOW right there too, if you're walking the trail in the wintertime and you need to get in and get some warmth.
Yeah.
I don't believe you could do that at the concession stand. So.
Right, there wouldn't be any warmth for the public. It would just
Right.
be warmth in the inside for staff.
So Alder Lukens.
Thank you. Just one other thought. When you're, talking with whomever, I work with adolescents and I hear all the time, there's nothing for us to do. I mean, I know there's the skateboard park and things like that, but for kids who don't do that, I've been hearing it lately, well, the mall, since the mall closed, there just isn't a lot. So it would be really nice if, I don't know what the answer is, but if, I guess I'm putting in a plug-in, something for adolescents, if they have any ideas, but
Yep.
I'm being asked about that all the time, so thanks.
Well, I think both proposals are interested in, doing things to get people there. So even having, cornhole boards out there, maybe we put cornhole boards out there that are permanent, things like that. That space in the original proposal of the park was supposed to be, a whole bunch of family yard games and stuff like that. That got cut out of the budget, so we haven't, maybe the city looks at something like that to get people down there too.
That would be nice because I know WOW is right there, but a lot of adolescents can't really afford, to just hang out, so, yeah.
So if I could propose, because I would like some guidance on, and we do need to move on this just because these, both entities, if they're going to do this, they need to buy equipment, they need to get everything in line, they need to, the longer we take, the less likely that it is that they're open, in early June or at the end of May. So to keep this moving, I guess, a couple of questions I have, because I think it will, from what I'm hearing, is hours. So the one thing is we like the longer hours, what that might be, or not necessarily hours of the day, but dates. what that might be is to be negotiated, but goal is to have a plan or a willingness of a proposer to do a little bit longer than just your Memorial Day to Labor Day, if possible, even if it's just weekends or high traffic time. So I can ask both, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I mean, if we, I kind of, if you're looking for direction, I personally, I kind of like number 2, but he's got to have more hours, you know? Even if, say like after we went 5-1 to 10:31, but in between time from 5-1 to 9-1, he's full-time, but the rest of the time, we just have weekend staff there.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I can propose to both of them is that, you know, is this timeline, or is that doable for your proposal? I think the other one is the lease amount. That's a significant difference between the two lease amounts. I do agree that if we just lease it the months that they're open, I think that's a good negotiation piece. Bricks did pay us the $1,000 a month, and that's kind of the baseline that we have had. And personally, I would prefer not to collect a certain amount of percentage of sales, because I think that's an added layer on that we need then to make sure that there's accurate, you know, inventory and payments, and that everything's being, as far as the city goes, I'd rather just be the leasee and say, you're leasing this space for this amount, for this number of hours, and we're gonna do the the bathrooms type of thing. So, if I could propose that maybe I go back to both and say it's $1,000 a month for the dates that you're open, and we can look at, you know, maybe if we're only doing weekends in May and weekends in September, that those two are prorated, those 2 months are prorated or something like that. So it's based on, you know, making it successful for them. Maybe if I go back with that amount to proposal 1, they'll say absolutely no way, I don't know. But I think to make it even, proposing both, if we like one and the other, we go back and we talk to both for those things. The other thing is the bathrooms we already talked about, and then making sure we get maybe a more detailed staffing plan, is what I'm hearing, especially for proposal 1.
So what you're saying, Ms. Polly, is that if we, say for May, September, and October, they're only open on weekends, that's only, say, $500 a month rent.
Yep.
I'd be willing to do, or prorated some, Alder Watson.
So if you need a motion, do you need a motion? Or just
Yeah, maybe we should make a motion that just authorize me to do the negotiation between the two, and then, I think for timeline, I can let you know what that,
by next meeting?
I'm a little afraid to push it out to April, just because that's getting so close, because then we still have to go through finance and council. You know, the idea would be to hopefully get an agreement. Really, the council doesn't have to approve which proposal we're going with, they need to approve an agreement. So if you tell me that the guidelines that we'd like to see is longer hours, I think it sounds like we're fine with whatever they're offering as far as coffee, tea, ice cream, snack,
products,
shakes,
yeah.
pizza, you know, that, we're even okay with the closed Mondays if that's in their proposal. I think as long as the lease rate is what we want and maybe the dates, then I can work with Ann to put that agreement together, and then we bring that through HR, finance, and through, you'll see it at council then, instead of having to come it back to, if we're doing what you would like me to do in the negotiations, then we don't have to bring it back here.
That works for me.
Okay.
Alder Neal.
Thank you. Now, going back to the $1,000 a month baseline that, you know, Bricks had, did they choose to not renew due to the fact that it wasn't making good business sense for them? Was there an interview where they talked about that the $1,000 a month was just a bit too much for them to bite off? Or, I mean, was it an issue at all, and should we be looking at that as an absolute or negotiable?
Well, I think we could look at it as a negotiable, but I think it needs to be close to that for there's, I mean, this includes utilities and everything, so the city still has a cost to this building that we're paying for, that we're not requiring the leasing to pay on top of this amount. So I think that should be part of that. In talking with Bricks, they did not mention the cost of the lease. Their reason was mainly business, as they were concentrating on their bigger locations. And the other part of the exit interview was they used the development that was planned down there that hasn't come as a reason why, if that was there, we would stay. It's always, the building was always busy whenever I went past it, so I can't imagine that it wasn't successful for them. But also, I don't know that it was a priority location, and their hours of business kept changing, which is one thing we want to make sure that, and I think it's something, you know, this is going to be, this concession stand's still fairly new. Bricks was in there, but then we had COVID also, so we had rebuilding after that. So I think it's something that we would, no matter who the leasee is, we work very closely with them, and if there's very concerns about, you know, this day of the week or this time, and they want to make some changes, there's always the option to make an amendment to the lease proposal.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I wonder if we might leave our calendars open for perhaps a special meeting, you know, rather than waiting a month to come back on this, you know, if we could meet in, 2 weeks or something like that, to look at, you know, what's been kind of fleshed out, and then, you know, act at that time.
I think that's a possibility. I'll work with Jamie and with the clerk and see if this is available or if we have to go in the other room. Yes, Alder Watson?
I guess I would just hope that if we gave Jamie the parameters, then she could, you know, work with the people to work something up for HR and finance, and then we'll just see it in council. Like, I mean, I think if we could say, like, the rent could be like plus or minus 100, you know, like have a little wiggle room in the rent, and then extension of the time open from like early May to end of October. Like, would those be our our negotiation points?
I would still like to have this council have the final say on which one we should accept before we move forward.
Yeah, I mean,
And this committee, I mean.
yeah. Well, if I'm talking to one or both of them and it's not doable for one or both of them, then I think I would send an email out to everybody to let you know where we're at, because then we might have to go, you know, back to discussions or whatever. I don't want to lose either proposal, because I think they are both good. But I think it's a good place to start from. I think if we were to do this again, we want to maybe put those specific parameters in there, but not having, you know, we just wanted to see what the interest was too, and get a good partner in there, because I think there's some really good ideas that have come out of this for the space. And it can be grown upon, you know, changed over time, but, so.
I just want to see somebody be successful
Yes,
and
me
keep
too.
coming back, so we don't have to do this every other year.
Yep.
So is it a consensus then that we let Jamie work further on this and come back to us in a couple weeks? Okay? Okay, we will table it till then, and I'll be in contact with you, and you can feel free to email the committee too.
Okay.
So, okay. On to
All right.
item number 3. I'm just going to let you take off with it. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, do you want to read all of those? All right. Okay, hold on a second.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I mean,
Alderman.
all the various changes are indicated, you know, clearly in the packet. If I may, I would just make a motion to accept the changes as outlined.
Thank you, Alder Neal has made a motion to accept item number 3 as outlined. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Alder Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Very much.
Discussion on possible city beer garden.
Yeah.
Um,
So Dylan, I can be in touch then. I'll give you a call.
I'm curious to hear this.
Yeah, no, you can stay forever. I just wanted to make sure before you left, I told you I'd be in touch with you, but. Okay, yeah, so City Beer Garden. So this is something that Alder Neal and I have been speaking about, that he was interested in looking into it further. It was something that was looked into me prior to me coming to the city. I did find an RFP that the previous director had done and saw a few proposals, but it just never went forward. So this is more, there's no action being asked of you tonight other than more direction and discussion on whether we should pursue this further, because there's a couple of different caveats to it, and ways we could do it. So in general, I guess the idea of a city beer garden is, first question for the committee is this something that you think would be very worth pursuing and you want to have something like this in the community, or is it something that you're not really interested in at this time? So that would be the first question. Second one is, I'll go through, we did a lot of Mark Darrow in my office and I did quite a bit of research on ways that we could do this, ways it's been done in other communities. We had a really, really good meeting with Milwaukee County as well as the city of De Pere and the city of Ashland, who does it a little bit differently. Just learned a lot too from it, and really realizing that the city and the county have the ability to operate a beer garden without having a liquor license. Like our staff can actually do it. There's trainings we can send our staff to and everything like that as far as a responsible bartender and things that we definitely would do. But we could do it that way. On the other hand, if we went out for RFP and just had a local establishment do it or a private vendor do it, they could do it, but then they would need to have their own liquor license. They also need to follow, from what I'm understanding of the ordinance, and I just have to clarify this, is they would be considered a Class B then picnic license, which in our ordinance requires the fencing, to have it fenced in. Now, all of this is up for something that the, city council can change and approve. And so I put that kind of in the sample RFP that I put in here, and just says that's what was out there in 2018. So updated it a little bit, and it assumes that, the fencing requirement would go away. We'd have the ability to move it around. So couple different options, and how we start. I guess first of all, is this something that the committee is interested in or not?
I have some questions, and that is, what are we looking at? Are we looking at a 24/7 or a weekend, or just like an event from moving it from place to place, or is this something that's going to say be downtown on the 400 block I'm just using it as an example from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or
Sure.
To what extent do you want to take this?
Well, and that's really what the direction is I want from the committee. But speaking with my staff, if we were to run it and we were to do it under the ability for the Parks Department to do it and not have the liquor license and have it more of like an internal revenue source, that's how Milwaukee County does it. And Milwaukee County makes a lot of revenue, but they also have 5 different rotating food trucks that they're 10 days at a park, and then they take 2 days to move. They set up for another 10 days at a park, and they are constantly rotating. So they bring in a couple of $1 million in revenue. But they recommended to us, as well as De Pere did, is if you're going to start this, you start small, maybe once a month or once a week. You pick a day of the week that is best. They actually like the weekdays better. They feel they get more, they do have weekend, they have it on the weekends and they get some people during the day on the weekends, but they like the weekday, they keep it more family friendly. It's the neighborhood gathering place, so kids are allowed, dogs are allowed, usually some sort of food there. It's hours of operation for Milwaukee County and De Pere is 4:30 to 9, because their parks close at 10. Our parks close at 11, so we could do 4:30 to 10. We can do any hours we want it during the night.
Is this something you would want to put a food truck attached to it too as well? Okay, we'll go around the table here. Alder Neal.
Just, in my mind, I keep, reverting back to what Milwaukee, this is a city park, Juneau Park, right above the lake. And it's there every summer. And it's a relatively small affair. I mean, they have a beer truck, and maybe more than one, and 2, 3, 4 like food trucks, a little semicircle, no big deal, handful of picnic tables. People bring their own chairs too, or whatever. And yeah, dogs on leashes and things. It's kind of low key. It's not a big deal. It's not an event per se. It's just an amenity. But it's very popular. People will love doing it, especially when the weather's perfect.
Sure.
So I think it's a good opportunity. Let's say, one of our local brewers, like Red Eye or something, decides, well, they'd like to, ply their trade in a different way, and get some more knowledge of their varieties in this kind of atmosphere. We've got a number of food trucks already that we could look at partnering up with this, and start small. I mean, really, yes, start small, but maybe Thursday through Saturday, or something like that. For X weeks, during the summer, and it's something that's growable. But I think at this point, at this time of the year, I mean it's already March, and if we want to do it, I think by keeping it simple, getting a willing partner, making sure that we've crossed all the T's in terms of any ordinance or things like that. I'd like to see that beer fence go away if it's still alive. That's just unnecessary. So yeah, keep it small, just get it started.
Alder Lukens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Neal.
So I researched this a bit when I was reading the packet and saw Milwaukee. And anyway, one question, do beer gardens offer wine ever?
Right now, they can't, so there is legislation that is proposed to be changed and included with the beer, but right now it would just be malt beverages, so
Okay.
beer, and there are a few like wine coolers type cans that they can offer, so.
I'm not a beer drinker, so anyway, but I really like the idea of a place for a food truck and, something like that. I think anything like this that we could do to bring people, to enhance community would be good. So anyway, I'm in favor of it. I guess it depends what I've not been to one. I think I was at one type of, it was more of an event in St. Paul, and it was great. But, so anyway, yeah. And I would like it better if they served wine too, and I could have a glass of wine.
Well, we'll see if it gets added.
Thank you, Alder Lukens. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. If you had asked me these same questions about interest back in 2010, I'd have been a resounding no. Since then, though, the city has come a long way in cleaning up its license process and its expectations of license holders, and its expectations and clarifying its expectations among the consuming public. So we have made so many positive impacts through changes that were made in public health and safety between 2010 and 2014. This is actually now possible, and I am a yes for this. What I do think the best way to do it, because a municipality can do it without a license, I think, and then you have a different element of control of how it operates as well. If those people are employees of that facility, you can, rotate your vendors, whether it be the food, the supply, whatever. The fencing ordinance still exists, but we can grant exemptions to it. But I think with picnic licensing, the problem with picnic licensing is they're event specific. And so if you go out and get a vendor that has to get a picnic license every time they do this, you're going to have 20 licenses for somebody that are going to need approval. And if they miss one, they've got a problem. So I also think that it's difficult for vendors under their own license to amend their premise to include this, especially if it's pop-up. And if it's pop-up in more than one location, it's even more difficult. So I think if we wanted to do that as a municipality or as a park department, keeping the responsibility for it in-house is a much, much easier way to do it and manage it. I do think, though, that wherever this thing happens, it needs to be easily identifiable when you're at the garden, because they can't run up and down the trail with it. You know, we have a problem with open intox in the public right-of-way. And so if it's something where it's easy to just get up and wander off, people will. So it has to be like, much like the patio at Wow. You know when you've left that space because the landscaping is designed so that you know when you're in and when you're out without fencing. This has to be that same thing. It has to be easy for people to understand where the boundaries are. But I think that, you know, you guys running it is the right answer versus trying to bring in vendors who have other businesses to run separate from this. You know, and if you want to do rotating suppliers and rotating food trucks, that enhances the appeal. But even if you did it as a pop-up in multiple areas, you know, much like you've done a lot of other pop-up events, I think it would be very, very popular. But even, I mean, we had envisioned something like this along the riverfront from the beginning as well, but it was the how to do it and who does it and how often. You know, so I think there's some good possibility here. And I think under Chapter 125, if, as a municipality, it can be done without managing another layer of, you know, licensing and then making sure, I would hope that all of those servers go through safe server training. I think that's important. But beyond that, if that's a way to get this done and it's a revenue source, that really is a win-win. So I certainly would encourage the development of that kind of program now.
Thank you, Alder Rasmussen. I would too. I think it's good. It'd be good for the city. I go to concerts on the square every week. Every week I go. I don't care who plays. It might be good. It might be bad. I go because I sit around the house all winter long, and I like to get out. And I've been going for so many years now that, you know, I sit with a certain group of people and certain friends, and I think this is another avenue to get out and socialize. And I also know for a fact that I've been volunteering some of my time at the Bull Falls Brewery. The destruction of the old pub house is gone. They're building on there, and they're very interested in being a partner in this as well. I don't know if they can for this year, but they're certainly shooting for it. So, what direction are you looking for, Jamie?
This is great. This is exactly what I needed. So just some challenges that we have talked about. And we did reach out to a couple local bars, a couple local breweries. And I think if we were to, one benefit in what we've heard is if we were to do it, they're more willing to, you know, sponsor an event and provide us the stuff. Red Eye is one that specifically said they would not be interested in putting a proposal out for them to run it because they're already short on staffing. So to find staff for another location too. But I think, and I can't speak for them because we haven't specifically reached out, but I think that they would probably be more apt to sponsor a night, and we could do, you know, like promote their beer at that night. There's also a lot of suggestions in here of partnering with your local distributor, because then usually a beer vendor will supply your trailer for you where you have your taps out of at no cost, or because you're doing their beer, you know, type of a thing. It's kind of like we get the coolers from Coke because we sell Coke and have the agreements. Though a couple of challenges that we know is the payment. That's something we would have to work through. If it's a couple, De Pere, and a couple locations in Milwaukee have partnered with a person who owns an ATM, that they bring that, and then it's cash only, but that allows people. Milwaukee has a couple other locations where they do use, like the Square, Apple Square. We know with our IT department, some of those remote locations could be challenging because our pools are already challenging and how we were taking payment at the pools. So that's one of the things we have to work through. And then just talking about location, we could definitely have it be rotating, or we could try it that for a year, it's set up at this location on these dates, and then we move to this other location. But one benefit about the one park that De Pere has and then the Milwaukee parks is they're almost all neighborhood parks where it's very easy for a large majority of people just to walk there. They don't rely on a lot of parking because not a lot of people technically drive to their beer garden. Originally, we thought Oak Island would be a really neat place to have it because it's got the playground, it's on the river, but it's not really close to a lot of residential houses for people to walk to. So we toyed with a few things, and we'd love ideas about that. One park, honestly, that we think makes a lot of sense is Marathon Park. That's a county park, but it's still within the city. It's because it's so centrally located by so many. It has a new playground. It's going to have a new splash pad. We have the ability to take any payment there if we were to, work off of the junction point of sale too. So that's maybe we have it a few days in there, or maybe we've talked about even Brockmeyer. Payment might be a little issue there, but we've got JoJo's. It is surrounded by quite a few houses. So I guess we can put together a proposal on kind of what we think we could do this first year. One night a week, one night a month, one time a month for 3 days. We can look at all those different options to start off small. We can see and work on like a beer trailer to how we would get our equipment and how we would put the round.
I just have a question when it comes to a beer trailer. What about if the vendor supplies their own?
Well, in this case, if we're running it, we wouldn't have a vendor. We would partner with a vendor, and then this possibility, if we were highlighting, if we're highlighting Bull Falls beer that night, and the vendor has their own trailer, that's something. Yes.
So in other words, I can go back to them and say, well, you don't necessarily need a trailer. The city can supply you with one, and you just bring your beer.
Possibly, yeah. We just have to see what that entails. Like, we're gonna reach out. Mark does have calls into the couple distributors in town to
Okay.
see, with Coke, we had to sign a contract that we're definitely going to sell Coke, and then they give us the cooler. So we don't know what that would mean.
Sure.
Is it a Miller trailer, and then we for sure have to sell Miller as one of the options, and then. But I think there is interest. We have the Merrill Sawmill is extremely interested in being a part of this and kind of getting into the Wausau market. So
They're good.
yeah,
And if I could add one other thing, what about that park too that's below 10th Street?
Stuart?
That's a pretty big park there. We could do something there
Oh,
as
Stewart
well.
Park, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's
mean,
definitely a neighborhood park. Parking is kind of an issue there. There's there's no parking lot per se, just street parking, and the neighbors tend to fill that up pretty much themselves.
But I mean, if for people come from the neighborhood, if Jenny was saying
sure.
for walking, we could,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to, get our feet wet all over the city with this and see what works.
And with the possible option of music, for instance, that would work, but Kickbush Plaza down behind the library with its, the stage that's put out there is an option. That has a parking lot right next to it, River Life, we have a lot of green space down there that, with attached parking and whatnot. So kind of a little further away from neighborhoods, but not that far. I mean, people, they go for walks along the river. I mean, they're down there all the time. So, and I keep saying scale. I mean, I'm seeing this as kind of a smallish thing, really. Something small and cool, and it could gather steam. You just don't want to, I don't want to get into this event mindset and make it bigger and bigger
Right.
than it has to be. I think we should just have it be a nice little thing, and it can grow popularity over time. 1 or 2 seasons, and it's like now people start to think it's something they look forward to next summer.
Sure.
So.
Any, Alder Rasmussen?
Just a final comment. I think part of the appeal is going to be the pop-up nature, because events that are predictable already have a following, and they often, like the 400 block, that's a carry-in venue, and we're allowing that. But I really think that that really is what the appeal is, if you try it in a couple of different locations, figure out which locations work the best. The fact that it's not a daily availability and the fact that it's something people have to seek out often increases the appeal, at least for the market that we're looking for. So I think we should certainly try it and see where we end up, but I think you have some great ideas to at least start with.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this?
So the only thing that, so if we're, one thing that I will have to bring back, if, to have this is that even though the state statute allows us to sell without a license, the city still has to pass an ordinance, resolution, or regulation that gives the staff permission to do it in the park. So I'll work with Ann on drafting something of that nature and bringing it through the committees.
Public health and safety.
Yes.
Bring that to, yes.
Yep, yep.
We'll take it.
Okay. Thank you. On to item number 5, educational items. Ms. Polly, that's you as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's not a touchscreen. Pretty simple updates right now. We're kind of in transitioning. Sylvan Hill closed on Sunday. We squeaked in the last couple rentals with that warm-up, but we were able to get them in. Hill was a little bit slower than normal, but it still was good. We just had a lake at the bottom, so that was probably the most fun for kids since they got a little wet. But it wasn't too cold, so that was good. But we're doing that. We're getting that done. All of our winter stuff is pretty much coming to an end. Ice rinks are pretty much done. With the warm-up, our ski trails are all closed. Just with the rain coming, definitely we have no snow. Ice arena rink 2 was done yesterday, so that's being taken out. So now we're starting to transition to spring and summer. We've already got some renovation work started at Athletic Park with the softball team coming. We needed to make those bathrooms there ADA accessible and accommodating for both users. River Life Park, we began to tear down. Actually, it's done. So when we write these and put the agenda out, it was a week ago, but the new fence is up on the concession building in the back that has the louvers to make more airflow for those units in there. Touched on some of the other things. We've had some vandalism, not too much over the winter, so that's good. So we're just helping on that. Our department was able to assist the airport with some plowing that they had in those really days that we had a lot of snow and they don't have enough staff. So we're kind of working with the different departments as needed. But really, their snow plowing maybe has one more day in it, and then it looks like it's going to warm up again after this week's snow. And then we're still working on some maintenance items, so the refinishing of the signs, benches, stuff like that. So really more routine work at the moment, but we are gearing up for some of our very large projects, like the skate park. We'll be gearing up for here as it gets warmer. Athletic Park has a lot of work to do before the games start. Just some finalization of the turf and then the clubhouse. So, yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be busy soon.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Item 6, future agenda items, athletic park use agreement amendments.
Yep, I have, what did I put on there? Sorry. Oh, for athletic park use amendments, we are, and when I worked through the softball use agreement with Mr. McDonald, we clarified and simplified how we charge them each year, because the old agreements from 2013 have this look back of so many years, then they have this CPI comparison, and then, with COVID and everything, like CPI went through the roof and then back down, and it's really hard to navigate both on our end and on his end. So with the softball agreement, we simplified it. He would like to simplify it, and I would like to simplify it for the baseball. So they're pretty minor amendments, but that's one. And then with the improvements that he made, he'd just like to add a few more years on to each agreement. He's in it for the long haul, so he would like that added as well. And then we're going to update the premise part of the agreement because we're adding that little parking lot where that house was donated to us, and some sidewalk space. Yeah, pretty minor updates, but that'll be coming.
Okay. Item 7 is next meeting Monday, April 7th, 2025, 5:15, council chambers. What's that?
For maybe the special one in between.
Yes, correct. Item number 8. Who's gonna shoot number 8? Motion by Alder Watson, second by Alder Lukens for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, and meeting's adjourned.